their last words before they vanished forever. A voice is a powerful thing. It's a connection, a comfort. But what happens when that voice is the last thing you ever leave behind? When a final, frantic phone call is the only clue to a disappearance that seems impossible. We like to think of our world as a mapped and connected place, a grid where getting truly lost is a thing of the past. But for some, the modern world offers no safety net. 1 minute, they're on the line. The next, there's only silence. A silence that stretches for days, for years, for a lifetime. Tonight, we're looking at two of those stories. A young woman on a state-of-the-art cruise ship, a floating city she should never have been able to escape, vanishes right after a distressed phone call. And a college student, lost on a dark country road while talking to his own parents, says a single, panicked word before his voice is gone forever. These are the stories of what happens when the call ends, and the real mystery begins. Part 1. The frantic phone call, the disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. Imagine a black screen. All you hear is the tinny, electronic ring of an internal phone system. Then, a conversation begins. A young woman's voice, full of distress. I don't know what to do. It's not right. It's not. There's a pause. You can hear muffled, indistinct voices in the background. No. Fine. I'm fine. Then, the click of a phone hanging up. Silence. For 24-year-old Rebecca Coriam, working for Disney Cruise Line wasn't just a job. It was the adventure of a lifetime. Born in Chester, England, Rebecca, or Bex as her friends called her, was bubbly and caring, a perfect fit for her role as a youth worker aboard the Disney Wonder. She spent her days at sea, a whirlwind of new faces and new ports, but she was always in touch with her close-knit family back home. In early 2011, she returned to the UK for a 2-month break. She got to spend precious time with her family before heading back to the Disney Wonder, ready to continue her dream job. On March 21, 2011, the ship left Los Angeles for a 7-day cruise down the coast of Mexico. That day, Rebecca sent her parents a message on Facebook, her last one, promising to call them the next day. Her mother replied, but as the hours passed with no call, a knot of worry started to tighten. It just wasn't like Bex to be out of touch. 12 hours later, that worry became a nightmare. On the morning of March 22nd, as the Disney Wonder sailed through international waters, Rebecca Coriam didn't show up for her 9 a.m. shift. She wasn't in her cabin. Pages over the ship's intercom went unanswered. They searched the entire ship, a floating city with nearly 950 crew members and over 2,000 passengers, and found nothing. Rebecca was gone. The ship's security team started combing through CCTV footage, and they found her. At 5:45 a.m., a camera in a crew area on Deck 1 recorded Rebecca talking on an internal phone. The footage is heartbreaking. She looks visibly upset, at one point holding her head in her hands. She's wearing what looks like oversized men's clothes, which she tugs at uncomfortably. During the call, a young male colleague walks by and seems to ask if she's okay. You can see her lips form the words, "Yeah, fine," but her face tells a completely different story. A moment later, she hangs up and walks away. That was the last confirmed sighting of Rebecca Coriam. Somewhere between that phone call and her missed shift, she had simply vanished. The official investigation began, but it was immediately tangled in problems. Because the Disney Wonder is registered into the Bahamas, case fell to the Royal Bahamas Police Force. A single detective was flown to meet the ship when it docked. He spent just 1 day on board and reportedly interviewed only a handful of the nearly 1,000 crew members and none of the passengers. When Rebecca's parents, Mike and Ann, were flown in from the UK, they were met with a theory that felt insulting. Disney suggested that Rebecca had been near the cruise swimming pool on Deck 5 when a freak wave hit the ship and washed her overboard. To her parents, this made no sense. The walls around that deck are over 6 feet high, designed to prevent exactly that kind of accident. An investigator hired by the family later confirmed that maritime records showed the seas were calm that night, making the rogue wave theory seem even less likely. The family's suspicion grew when they were shown a pair of flip-flops, which Disney claimed were Rebecca's and had been found near the pool. Mike and knew instantly they weren't their daughters. Wrong size, wrong style, and worst of all, they had another crew member's name and cabin number written on them. This led them to believe the official story wasn't just wrong, but a cover-up. The Bahamian police investigation was widely criticized as being shallow and poorly handled. Even the CCTV footage of her last phone call became a point of contention. The family claims the copy they first received was cropped, hiding the location data. Disney had said the call took place on Deck 5, which supported their theory. But the full, unedited footage showed the call was made on Deck 1, in a crew area, far from where she supposedly went overboard. So what really happened? Her family and other investigators believe the answer lies in that phone call. Rumors from other crew members began to paint a picture of a young woman in serious emotional distress, possibly caught in a difficult romantic situation on board. Her parents have stated their belief that their daughter was sexually assaulted and murdered, pointing to the ill-fitting men's clothing in the final footage as a possible sign of a traumatic event. To make things even stranger, there were unconfirmed reports that Rebecca's credit card may have been used after she disappeared. The family also received an email from a woman who was 85% sure she'd seen Rebecca in Venice with a dark-haired man. But like other leads, it went nowhere. In 2016, the Coriam family settled a lawsuit against Disney out of court, which included a non-disclosure agreement, legally preventing them from speaking about many details of the case. The official investigation concluded her disappearance was not suspicious. She was simply lost at sea. But you don't just get lost from a cruise ship. It's a contained, monitored environment, a fortress of steel and cameras. How does someone vanish from a place like that, leaving behind only a few seconds of silent, agonizing footage and a phone call that ended with the words, "Yeah, fine"? Part 2. The college student's final call. The disappearance of Brandon Swanson. The screen goes black. You hear a cell phone connect, then the sound of wind and footsteps crunching on gravel. A calm, young male voice. "Yeah, I don't know where I am. I think I'm near land. I can see some lights. I'm going to start walking towards them." An older male voice, his father. "Okay, just stay on the phone with me, son. We're coming." The sound of walking continues. Then, suddenly, the young man's voice, sharp with terror. "Oh shit." The line goes silent. Not disconnected, just dead air. The father's voice, now panicked. "Brandon? Brandon? What was that? Brandon, can you hear me?" The silence stretches on, broken only by the wind. On the night of May 13th, 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson was celebrating the end of his first year of college. He was studying wind turbine technology at Minnesota West Community and Technical College and lived with his parents in Marshall, Minnesota. That night, he went to a couple of end-of-term parties. Friends said that while he'd been drinking, he didn't seem drunk. Sometime after midnight, he got into his green Chevy Lumina to make the familiar drive home. But for some reason, a reason we'll probably never know, he didn't take the main highway he drove every day. Instead, he ended up on a series of dark, rural backroads. That's when his night took a disastrous turn. He veered off the road, and his car got stuck in a ditch, wheels spinning uselessly. He was okay, but he was stranded. At 1:54 a.m., he called the people he could always count on, his parents, Brian and Annette Swanson. He calmly explained what happened, told them he wasn't hurt, and said he thought he was somewhere near the town of Lind. His parents immediately jumped in their truck to go get him, keeping Brandon on the phone the whole time. What followed was a frustrating, confusing search in the dark. Brian and Annette drove around near Lind, flashing their lights, while Brandon did the same. Neither could see the other. Brandon eventually got frustrated, left his car, and told his parents he could see lights from what he thought was Lind and would walk toward them. He told his dad to meet him in the parking lot of a local bar. The call lasted for 47 minutes. For 47 agonizing minutes, Brandon walked through the dark Minnesota farmland, his dad's voice in his ear. He described climbing over fences and hearing the sound of running water nearby. He didn't sound disoriented, just like a kid trying to find his way home. Then, 47 minutes into the call, the conversation came to a sudden, terrifying end. Brandon yelled, "Oh shit." And then nothing. This is a crucial detail. The call didn't drop. For several seconds, the line was open. His parents screamed his name into the phone, hoping he'd just dropped it. There was no reply. They tried calling back again and again, but every call went straight to voicemail. Brandon Swanson was gone. His parents searched all night. At 6:30 a.m., they reported him missing, but police were initially dismissive, suggesting it wasn't unusual for a 19-year-old to stay out all night. By that afternoon, though, the investigation started, and it immediately uncovered something that changed everything. Cell phone tower data showed that Brandon hadn't been anywhere near Lind. His call actually came from an area near Porter, Minnesota, about 25 miles away from where he thought he was, in a completely different direction. This tragic miscommunication meant his parents had been searching in the wrong place the entire time. Searchers quickly found his abandoned car in a ditch, just as he'd described. With this new location, a massive search began. Dogs picked up Brandon's scent and followed a trail for over 3 miles, through fields, past an abandoned farm, and right to the banks of the Yellow Medicine River. And there, the trail went cold. The main theory is that Brandon, walking in the pitch black, accidentally fell into the fast-moving river and drowned. It's possible the banks were steep, and a childhood eye injury may have affected his depth perception. But extensive searches of the river found nothing. Not a body, not a piece of clothing. His mom, Annette, pointed out that if he'd fallen in the water, they probably would have heard a splash over the still-open phone line. His dad, Brian, said it sounded more like he just slipped and fell. Could he have fallen into an old well or tried to take shelter from the cold in an abandoned building? It's possible, but searches of those structures turned up nothing either. And then there's the question of foul play. Did Brandon stumble upon something he wasn't supposed to see? Was someone else out there? That final, panicked, "Oh shit," could easily have been a reaction to another person. But with no evidence of a struggle, it remains speculation. The tragic case led to the passage of Brandon's Law in Minnesota, which requires police to immediately investigate a missing adult, eliminating the waiting period that costs so much time in his case. It's a powerful legacy, born from a terrible loss. The unifying mystery and conclusion. At first, the disappearances of Rebecca Coriam and Brandon Swanson seem worlds apart. One on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, the other on a lonely farm road in the Midwest. Rebecca was surrounded by people. Brandon was completely alone. But their stories are connected by one chillingly human element: the final phone call. In both cases, that last conversation is the heart of the mystery. It's the most important clue we have, and it's also the source of all the unanswered questions. For the Coriams, it's the silent video of their daughter, her pain obvious, but its cause a secret. For the Swansons, it's the sound of their son's voice, calm one second and terrified the next, followed by a silence that has never ended. These stories show just how fragile our modern, connected world can be. A cruise ship feels safe and contained, but it operates under laws that can make a real investigation incredibly difficult. A cell phone feels like a lifeline, but as Brandon's story proves, it's only as good as its signal and your own sense of direction. He was on the phone with his parents for 47 minutes, a conversation that should have saved him, but one piece of wrong information made it all useless. And you can't imagine the psychological toll on the families. To not only lose a child, but to be part of their last known moments, is a unique kind of hell. Brian and Annette Swanson were actively trying to rescue their son when he vanished. They were the last voices he ever heard. The Coriams are left to analyze a few seconds of video, knowing the answer is locked away in a conversation they will never get to hear. These aren't just mysteries. They are real voids left in real families. Rebecca Coriam was a daughter and a friend with her whole life ahead of her. Brandon Swanson was a son on the edge of his adult life, whose short drive home ended in an impossible question mark. Their disappearances remind us that even now, in our world of constant communication, a person can be swallowed by the sea or by the silence of an empty field, leaving behind nothing but the echo of their last words. The cases of Rebecca Coriam and Brandon Swanson are still open. Their families are still waiting for answers. We tell these stories to remember the people at their center and to keep the search alive. Please share your respectful thoughts on these cases in the comments. Discussing them keeps their memory from fading. And if you have any information, no matter how small it seems, please contact the authorities. You never know what detail might be the one that finally breaks the silence.